Welcome back to Flying Upstream, where we celebrate the stories of those who rise often against the current to create impact, truth, and healing in the world. Today's episode is a powerful and necessary and deeply inspiring one. We're talking about what it means to live and lead in a world that wasn't built with you in mind. We're going to explore the stories and not just the journey of writing, but what got her there. Our guest today has written not one, but four books, and the realities of being a deaf influencer is often one that is not in an accessible world realistic. So today our guest is Kellina Powell. She is a deaf coach and advocate, a podcast speaker, a best-selling author, and a passionate entrepreneur. She's on a mission to help young adults with disabilities achieve their goals while also bringing the gap between the hearing and deaf communities together. What makes her story even more remarkable is that Kellina has lost 100% of her hearing at the age of 4, and yet she's used that very experience to become a voice for others. Kellina, welcome to Flying Upstream.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course, I want to learn a little bit about you. Take us back to your early childhood. Like, for all of us who don't necessarily know your full story, what do you remember was the moment or the season when you became aware that you were living in a hearing world as someone who couldn't hear?
Yeah, it was not fun. It was very confusing, I would say. So again, I was 4 years old. I take it back to the story. A little girl went to daycare. A little girl had an infection in both ears, and she was given eardrop to treat it. And so I don't know what happened at daycare. They put the eardrop in both of my ears. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember it. And, and I was okay at daycare. And then my parents, I think who picked me up? My mom picked me up. And I went home. I was fine. I was fine, you guys. I was fine. Same day. And I sit down in front of the TV. Everything was fine. Until I noticed something was off with my ears because I was actually watching the character moving. And I'm like, wait. And I'm like, And then out of a sudden, I got a tap on my shoulder with my mom. Like, Kellina, I've been calling you and I jumped. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't hear you. And she's like, oh my God. And then just my mom did something. And I see her moving her mouth. I'm like, what happened? And I'm like, Mom, I can't hear you. And my mom's like, wait, what? Hello, can you hear me? And like, I can see her moving her hands. I'm like, Mom, I don't know what you're saying. My mom was furious. My mom was a young mom, actually. And so my grandmother, luckily, was a nurse at the time. My mom picked up the phone, like, she was like, I don't know, she was all over the place. And so, probably like within an hour or two, my grandma rushed home from the hospital. She bought all these stuff with her and she told me to check my ears and I was like, I can't hear you, grandma. Like, grandma, what's going on? What's happening? And then next, I see my mom and my grandma looked at each other like, what happened? And so they called my family doctor. My family doctor was booked for the evening. He said, you need to come first thing in the morning tomorrow. And the next day comes, I went to my family doctor. My family doctor broke the news to my mom and my grandma. Then I'm so sorry, there's nothing we can do. Kalina's 100% deaf in both ears. Had a little 4-year-old, don't know what's happening. I was confused. I was looking all over the place, right? Trying to navigate that whole evening when I came home from daycare.
Wow, I have like chills as you're saying this story because as an adult, it's hard to process, but as a 4-year-old, I can only imagine what that was like because I also think it's one thing to like be born not hearing and then a different thing kind of like you experience that moment, like you can recall the moment when this shift sort of happened. Did you ever find out down the line like what that infection was, what caused it to end up being in 100% deafness?
We don't even know, to be honest. Like, we think it's from the daycare. We think, I don't even know.
Wow. Wow. Well, you've done the most powerful thing that you could have done. And I think that's the most beautiful part of this story. You shared that growing up, you sort of felt like two different people,
Yes,
especially between deaf school and other
the
communities.
hand school.
Talk about
Yeah.
that.
It was an interesting experience. The reason why I felt like it were two different people is because in the deaf community, I was so comfortable. I was learning my sign language. I was okay. And then when I went to the hearing school, I lost all my self-esteem, my confidence, because one, teacher was not acceptable for me. Two, I was not able to have interpreter and continue learning my sign language. I was not able to have that. And number three, being bullied. I've been bullied a lot of times
Mhm.
in the hearing school versus the deaf school. So it was not an easy journey for me to balance with two different schools, just to really understand how do I communicate. And I felt like I had a split personality because one
Mhm.
minute I'm comfortable, the next minute I am not comfortable, and then when I go home, it's a whole different space for me. So as a 4-year-old, especially starting school, I don't know what's going on. I was confused with myself. I didn't know who I am as a person while I was growing up, but I would not take it for granted because this was amazing strategy that both of my family made for me to go both schools to teach me what it's like to be deaf in both communities so that I can learn how to navigate around the world without their support, right? And it's very important to teach child how to be independent. So that's what my family did. They really tried their best, but I would not change it for anything.
I'm getting emotional because it really speaks to the power of not navigating life with fear. If your families had taken a position of trying to just protect you, you would have never had an experience of what real life is like or gained the skills to navigate through what life was like in both worlds. And I mean, that's honestly absolutely beautiful. As you grew up, how did your identity shift as you got older? Especially with
Oh boy.
all of that.
It was not easy. Oh my god. It was not easy. I felt like I again, I was so learning myself, right? You never stop learning about yourself when you get older, especially with my situation. It was very difficult. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of deaf schools around in Canada. For those who don't know, I'm in Canada, Toronto, and there are not a lot of there is not naturally. There's only one deaf school, but it's like 3 hours away from Toronto. And my family did not want me to go all the way 3 hours away. They're like, hell no. So I fortunately I had to stop going to my deaf school up to grade three, and then I went to the hearing school full time. I struggled a lot, a lot, a lot. Like my confidence, it took me years. I've been bullied for 4 years straight until I was in grade five. It was not easy. I had a very good, strong support system. I had to learn how to love myself. As a young girl trying to figure it out in the hearing community, and a little girl had to learn how to advocate for herself. It was hard. I had teachers that didn't believe in me. I had teachers that, just pushed me underneath the rug just because I'm deaf, and it was very hard journey. I did cry a lot to go home. My family never stopped advocating for me. I always see that they're always showing up to the office for me. Every day, especially my grandmother, she did take care of me too while my mom was in college. And so my grandmother makes sure that I was taken care of in school. And she makes sure that she asked me questions about school. Like, did anybody bully you? Do you feel like someone pulled your hair because you're deaf? And also too, I had a lot of kids bully me because of my speech. I actually had a speech delay too when I became deaf. And so I actually had a speech teacher that actually comes in see me every single day. Well, not every single day, probably like 2 times a week. But it was very consistent to help me pick up my speaking again. And so it was a struggle. It wasn't always easy, I would say, but it definitely made me stronger than I am and helped me build my confidence. It really did a lot. A lot. I honestly, if you guys tell me that I'll be here right now, I would laugh at you. Like, there's no way I'm here. Um, so yeah, that's really what my journey was.
That's beautiful. It really is beautiful, and it speaks to the power of resilience and community because you had your family there supporting you and being your cheerleader along the way, which, there's so much value in that. So I love that. Um, so as you evolved and as you grew, it sounds like you took that power and that confidence, and now you are using your voice to empower the community. Let's start with the little boy you met in college.
Yeah, so I was working at a big park, and a little boy approached me, and my hair was in a ponytail. It was literally like this, you guys, and I was like this, And I was like, okay, I'm hot. And it was super hot. And so he came up to me and he was like, oh my God, you wear hearing aids. And I'm like, huh? And I was so confused and I forgot my hair was in a ponytail. I forgot. I because it was so hot. And I was like, huh? And then he's like, no, look, Miss, look. And I'm like, oh my God, you wear hearing aids too. It was just like so joyful. I loved it. And I was just so cute because the mom came to me full of joy and she almost cried and she said, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. The fact that you just put your hair in a ponytail, you definitely give the boost and confidence to my son because I've been telling him there's nothing wrong with him. And you are the first person he sees in the hearing community. And she literally said, little do you know, I know this, but you're gonna make a change in the world. And I'm like, oh my God. And
Oh.
so I didn't even know what she was talking about, but now I understand what she's talking about.
She was talking about your purpose, your sole purpose. That is amazing. So from there, what sort of inspired you after that first time that somebody told you you were here to make a change? What inspired you to write your first book? What message did you want young readers to take from it?
Okay. So I would say I want to ask you a question. Have you ever read a book by a deaf author before?
I never have.
That's right. So I actually did my research before I wrote my first book. I went around to all my network, all my communities, and every single one person said no, except for two people. So I said, yeah,
Yeah.
and luckily, I had a great mentor who guides me through everything in my entrepreneur space. And she said, Kellina, you need to write a book since everybody said no to you. And I said, there's no way I'm going to write a book. And she said, Kellina, yes, you can. Let's stop. And so the reason why I said no was because of my speech delay, my sentences. For those who don't know, I did struggle a lot with English class because as a deaf individual, sometimes we can hear words differently than our brain. So
Mm.
the way we speak and talk is very different versus someone who is hearing. So the way we think and hear certain words, it comes out different. So
Okay.
that was my problem I had when I was growing up. And so I did it. So COVID hit actually, so that actually really helped me a lot. And so I actually ended up having COVID twice or three times. I was stuck in my room. Yeah, it was very, very bad.
I'm
And so
so
I just
sorry.
said, it was so bad. I was like, get me out of here. And so my mom was very strict with COVID because she actually worked for the government. So it would very like, you cannot. And so I was stuck in my room for 3 months and I grabbed my iPad and I started typing and, and then yeah, and I spoke to my mentor, I'm like, "Look at this, I did it." And she's like, "You wrote a book in 3 months?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was bored in my room, what am I supposed to do? I was bored. And then she's like, "Okay, Kellina, okay, let me," and then she read a few pages, she's like, "Oh my God, I don't wanna read no more because I wanna actually buy it when it physically come out." And so, luckily through my network, I met a lot of graphic designer, editor. I found a lovely editor who was so like she's amazing, you guys, like amazing. And she was helping me with my poem. I actually wrote a poem book actually, and I wanted something super like simple, people can relate to, and really educate people what it's like to be in my shoes. And so yeah, so that's really how I came across my first book.
That is amazing. What is the title of your first book?
Every day I am just deaf.
To the point. I love
Yeah, to the point, literally.
I love that. I love that. And we're gonna link that in the show notes and in the YouTube descriptions for anyone watching. So you can go get your copy like I plan to as well. And now you've written 4 books. So some in collaboration with others. What part of writing do you now find healing? Because now you're an author and this isn't your first go, your second or your third. Um, what has been the most empowering part of putting your story into words?
I would say it's healing, healing, and I feel like writing really helped me to reflect on my life and really say, "Wow, I actually did this, I did that,"
Yeah.
and so it's a lot of powerness to being able to share your story with the world, knowing that it can be scary, but you never know who really needs your story. And yeah, when I published my first book, I became the best-selling author within 2 to 3 months, and I had a lot of parents reach out to me to thank you so much, and so it was. It was a very interesting journey, but writing is something I love doing, and it's just amazing. It just healed me, and that powerness I have, like that powerful, like wow, I can actually write, and I did this. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. And now you are an influencer in the deaf space. You are a deaf influencer in a space that's not always designed for, accessibility. How do you navigate in that world these days?
well, I mean, technology has improved a lot ever since. So now there's a lot more accessibility option. So before there was no closed caption on a lot of things. However, there is still some work that needs to be done. I'm not saying it's 100% perfect, but I feel like now a lot of people saying that there's a lot more of I would say a lot more people more mind open, like more minded, and be question asking people like what is it that we can do to be acceptable. And I feel like now like social media has been taking that from a lot of people, showing people like what it's like to be disabled. So I feel like now social media help people in a way of being more aware of what's really going on. So
I love that. That's beautiful. I've worked in the disability world for the last 15 years, and I can also attest to what you're saying. We've come a long way with the resources and what's accessible for people, but we do still have work to do. And I think it is important for people like you, the work that you're doing and putting that out, not only your story, but where you are today, putting that out into a space where young people and everyone else has access to it, because I think that is what's going to allow us to continue to ask the right questions to allow us to continue to help people, not just in the deaf community but also in the whole disability community. So thank you for what you do. I wonder for you, even as a deaf influencer and as a successful, award-winning author at this point, what are some misconceptions that people still have about the deaf community?
oh gosh, there's so many, honestly. I feel like a lot of people think that we cannot become successful because
Mm.
of our disability.
Wow. Yeah. It's like putting you in a box.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, One of the things that I'd love to kind of circle back in as we get ready to wrap up is, you've already made such an amazing impact. What is your bigger vision behind the work that you do? And what kind of change do you hope to see in society and in the way that the hearing community interacts with the deaf community?
My goal is to go global with my company in terms of really trying to build the gap with different organizations that are disabled and non-disabled, trying to see if I can put a band-aid between them to see how we all can come in together, not just this side of the world, like Canada, United States, but also globally, that be really so impactful. If that's something I'm like literally that's my vision. Is to definitely take it to the next level, go global, and really connect with other people all over the world.
That that is no small feat, but I have no doubt that you will accomplish it. Thank you so, so much for coming on today. Thank you for being our guest, and honestly, thank you for what you do every day. There are no words that can explain the impact that I know you're already having. And for the listeners, Kellina's story is a reminder that voice isn't just what we say, it's how we choose to show up, even in a world that doesn't always necessarily make space for us. Her work, her books, her advocacy, they're not just about raising awareness, they're about creating change, real structural, internal, cultural change. And so, if today's episode moved you, I encourage you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. And of course, check the show notes to follow Kellina, grab her books, and continue learning from her presence and her power. As always, keep questioning, keep exploring, and of course, keep flying upstream. Until next time.